candiles are great for Christmas. I'm gonna be insufferable lately.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
It's Tuesday, January 20th, 2026, regular meeting of the Windsor Heights City Council. Roll call.
Here. Joseph Jones. Here. Fletcher Berry. Here. Lauren Campbell.
Here.
Teresa Humphries.
Present.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Figured why not?
Allegiance.
To the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Susan Spears.
Yes.
Joseph Jones.
Yes.
Fletcher Berry.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Teresa Humphries.
Yes.
Public forum. This is the time set aside for comments from the public on topics of city business other than those listed on the agenda. No action may be taken. Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and keep your comments to no more than 5 minutes. Barry, anything from you?
No.
Okay. Moving on then. Consent agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Roll call.
Susan Spears.
Yes.
Joseph Jones.
Yes.
Fletcher Berry.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Teresa Humphries.
Yes.
5A, discuss Colby Park master plan next steps. AJ.
Yes. So as we come into the new budget year, this is our typical CIP ERP kickoff meeting. As part of this, since we've had a lot of renovations to Colby Park in the last year and a half, I'm going to take a little more time to talk about the park master plan that was done several years back, where we're at today, and where council would like to head on that. Before we dive directly into the park, though, I also want to just note where we're at in our budget process. So that budget process will kick off February 2nd. Department heads have submitted budgets to administration, and Rochelle and I have been going through those for the last several weeks. Would note that it's going to be a more challenging budget year than the last couple of years. We're looking at some significant cuts on our side to bring forth that draft budget. But we'll have that work largely wrapped up in the next couple of weeks and a draft for you to review, and have to work through some more in-depth conversations this year, I think, than the years past. Looking at the Colby Park Master Plan, in 2020, the city completed a park master plan to kind of guide the future park improvements. That concept is included in the packet, and that has a little legend there of about 14 different project components that were considered as part of that concept. To date, the splash pad, the playground equipment, the food truck plaza, and portions of improvements around the community center and the parking lot have all been completed. But we do have a number of outstanding items, including the previously engineered pickleball tennis courts. Those, if you recall, were previously bid at an engineer's cost of just under $1 million. We had one responsive bidder come back at just over $1.3 million. Part of that was the bid climate at the time. That project also incorporated post-tension concrete, which would have been more durable tennis courts than were in Colby Park previously. Since then, we shifted priorities, moved forward with other park improvements. But as part of those park improvements, we did do some of the electrical work that would feed into the tennis pickleball courts. There's also some concrete work that was done at the parking lot and the food truck plaza that lead into that as well. So we would anticipate that if that project was rebid out with or without that post-tension concrete, you could be looking at a little bit better price, particularly given the bid climate the last year or two as well. We talked about the park priorities as part of a CIP conversation at the Finance Committee meeting, and this was the next part of the Colby Park project that was indicated likely to be prioritized or preferred to be prioritized. So currently in the CIP, we have this as proposed for 2030 construction. Since that Finance Committee conversation, we did get boring samples back from the parking lot itself. That was scheduled in the CIP for 2028 surface overlay. What we found is that parking lot was put essentially just on the soil. So there's not a real sub base there, and it is a wet soil. So it was about a 20-year-old parking lot, but instead of resurfacing that parking lot, the engineer's recommendation is to fully reconstruct that parking lot, put in gravel and geogrid sub base since it does get so wet down there, and reconstruct that. And so The CIP reflects then kind of the consolidation of the tennis pickleball court project in 2030, the reconstruction of the parking lot in 2030. And then we've also verified that the stormwater system that comes in from the northeast part of town and then flows into Walnut Creek. We've had conceptually in the CIP some upsizing of that storm sewer for a number of years. As we started working through this water access project, we found some additional pipes that were pretty dated in there. Wanted to re-explore that concept of whether they were still needed based off of that information, but we still do need that stormwater improvement that would run along School Street, west, and then kind of through the parking lot, through the tennis courts into Walnut Creek. So that project still shows in the CIP and would be aligned in 2030 as well as proposed. So that would be a pretty substantial project there in 2030. To try to maintain parking, you'd probably look at doing that parking lot in 2 phases, so you can retain some level of parking during the construction of that in tandem with the tennis courts and the stormwater improvements. There's some additional components then in that master plan as well. The plaza space north of the CEC, that has not been designed. A fitness circuit court kind of west of the baseball diamonds, and then a mural concept along the south part of the baseball diamond as well. None of those improvements are currently scheduled in the CIP. They're all just listed in the CIP as unscheduled conceptual projects. So that's kind of where the conversation has been between the finance committee meeting and then additional staff updates in the last several weeks on the Colby Park pieces. We certainly welcome any feedback as we talk through the CIP or through the rest of this park piece on where council feels like the priorities are. I think from a public standpoint, we have heard comments in the last couple of years on pickleball courts in particular. Don't know how many people that is, but at least a couple of folks have reached out to us several times indicating interest in that. The master plan also looked at the dog park. It had 3 kind of pieces to the dog park, which was improving the existing obstacles and replacing the fencing. Those pieces are both done. There's also a concept in there of establishing a membership program for the dog park. That's pretty typical across the metro. We don't currently have any sort of a membership program for the dog park. So if that's something council is still interested in seeing, we can further research that, but no action's been taken on that master plan recommendation.
Didn't we talk and say that we weren't moving ahead with that membership plan because we would have to provide quote unquote amenities down there if we were charging, such as, I don't know, what was it? Like water or like something along those lines for like, because all the other dog parks have the amenities, like the water that goes in there. There's a few other things that other parks have that they charge for, but yet we're free. And so people, if you want to complain about the free dog park, it's free. It is kind of what happens when everybody goes out there. But I just worry about if we are going to charge a fee, then we need to step up and make it a membership-friendly dog park.
Andy, you want to comment on what existing amenities are there a little bit, just for general awareness?
Thanks, Adam. And the current amenities down there are pretty basic. We did do upgrades to the fence surrounding the perimeter of the field itself, as Adam said. A couple of years in the past, we did upgrade some of the features and kind of dog run interactive displays in that park. They're kind of in that same time frame. We do have some picnic benches down there. It's relatively low maintenance for us and our staff. There's 2 sections of the dog park, a larger animal section and then a smaller animal section. For us, on the amenity side, it would probably be very challenging to, number one, get electrical down there, water down there. The cost from an infrastructure standpoint to put those in for a paid membership program would be something you guys would have to consider, I guess. But from a maintenance standpoint, the amenities are, I don't want to say bare. I mean, it does get used quite a bit. I mean, quite frequently, and people do enjoy that. I think they do enjoy the free aspect that it isn't a park that they have to be a membership or subscribe to. So from us, for I guess for public works standpoint, that's what's down there. That's what we have. That's how we operate and kind of manage that space. So whatever feedback you guys have on that direction, we'll gladly take and run with it. Thank you.
I remember this discussion, but I don't remember when we had it. If it was, who was even the Public Works Director at the time. But we did talk about how it would be pretty cost prohibitive, and I know my comment was, if I'm gonna be paying for something, I have expectations. If it's free, then my expectations are.
Yeah, I feel like the conversation was tied into some complaints that we were getting from somebody who doesn't live in Windsor Heights about dog behavior. And I don't know if the dog is up to date on their shots. And I think that was what kind of went into the conversation, because the places like West Des Moines, if you pay for the membership or the pass to their dog park, you have to, in order to get that, you have to bring in your vet records and stuff. So I think that might have all been part of that same conversation, but it was a while ago.
This was in with the fencing. I remember
Okay.
that when we talked about the fencing and how we were gonna spend money because we were gonna pave something or at some point, because we had some extra money in the public works budget. And so then we were discussing that, and that's when that jarred my memory when you started talking about that. So I don't know if that's something that we want to keep in the plan, or if we just want to not have people see that and just continue going along with the free non-membership. Everybody can join and have fun in there.
You could also just make it part of the pet licensing process.
That's just for residents though, right?
Yep.
When you say make it part of the pet licensing,
Well, I mean, no one actually pays for it because they get it with their pet license.
Oh, so if
As
you
a
register,
your dog, then you also,
but what about non-residents? How do we handle that?
They pay for it.
yeah, so it would be free to our residents.
Correct.
Essentially handle non-resident use of the dog park as a pet registration fee. Kind of the equivalent to that.
Would you get a code to get in there then, like all the other places, or?
I mean, yeah, lots to figure out of the logistics for it, but if there's an appetite for it, or
I personally just would like to keep it simple and not have it an added project that we have to always worry about if it's gonna be fixed, if the water is going to cause whatever. Maybe we just discuss what we want to do with that plan instead of having it kind of open-ended in here, or at least, we've discussed it instead of saying it hasn't been implemented or something.
I'm just reading through the language of it right now with that lens.
Sorry to hold this up, everybody.
So Susan, what you're saying is remove the plan also recommended establishing a membership program for a dog park. However, this has not been implemented.
Yeah,
Since this is just the staff report and not the plan itself, is that action we can take? We want to talk about it further as an action.
I'm looking at the plan here, trying to figure out exactly what it does say.
I did not go to the plan itself. I just read this.
Yeah, I think it's just more clarification, I think, for staff of, is that something you want us to continue to pursue? I didn't recall the conversation that
We
took place.
can't
with
guarantee you
fencing.
were there. you were present.
I wasn't here during the park master plan, but I would have been at the fence replacement timeframe. So I don't recall that conversation, but reading through the plan, I just wanted to make sure if that's something council was intent on at that point, that we can move forward with it, or if it's not a priority, then we'll move on to other park issues, of which there's plenty to deal with.
Not a
I don't think it's a
priority.
priority.
I don't think it's priority.
So next part of the plan here then looked at Lions Park. There was a few suggestions there as well. And I think we have talked about Lions Park a couple of years ago at the CIP discussions as well. Talked about trying to increase the functionality of the park, install wayfinding signage, of which there is a very old sign at University Avenue and 66th directing towards it, but it is still pretty tucked away. And then maybe some dedicated parking. But really, there's no amenities down there right now. There's a picnic table and a little walking trail. My experience, occasionally you'll see folks out there, but lacking additional amenities. I don't see the need for dedicated parking down there. And we've brainstormed sort of some ideas down there, but the topography and from a priority standpoint, nothing's been acted upon at this point. So we don't have any proposals for it today, other than just remind you it's in the CIP. If you want to leave it on there for potential future item, we can certainly do that, but we don't have any intended action down there presently.
There's been a few residents that have asked about community garden. I think we've talked about like doing some raised beds, like what the feasibility, and then of course goes into like, how do we water it and that kind of stuff.
The shade, I think, would be the biggest challenge
Gotcha.
down there, and then just the limited space. But that's, I think, probably the lowest cost option. Is if folks wanted to do some community garden, you could probably do a minimal amount there, but you're not going to get much space to work with
Sure.
because of the terracing and the shade.
How hard would it be for us to create a walking labyrinth and just make that the destination?
Make a what?
A walking labyrinth,
Oh, like with
like on the ground where you
Shrubs.
the little trails and you little meditated path in there.
Public Works get their mini excavator. I'm sure they can get right on.
It does wonder.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of almost naturally
It's a
takes you
path to
to do
nowhere.
something like that. Be low maintenance overall.
Where would the parking be? Would that be, for lack of like the dentist's back space, or because, I mean, even now, like for our meetings, I think we take up pretty much all of this and, during the day when, or sometimes evening, depending on how many FD, PD people are here, where would we have people park?
I think that's a valid question. My assumption is the intended parking area was part of the HOA property there directly west of Lions Park. But that is HOA property. So to dedicate it for community parking for the park, I think we need the dentist to sign off on that. And you'd also have the question of whether there's really demand for that, at least today. Because very rarely do I see that parking lot completely full, and that's with a couple trailers that are there.
That's my experience in conversations, is that there's not huge demand, right? I mean, it's nice and some people do visit there or whatever, but yeah, it's not like you're having 20 cars come at once. So, yeah.
We'll ponder the mini labyrinth idea as part of the additions
That's
there.
great.
And then finally, the master plan sort of ends with a notation that there's some gaps in parkland space in Windsor Heights. Our park acres to resident ratio is fairly low, but there are parks in adjoining communities, particularly to the north, where there's a longer walking distance for folks. So indicates continue to explore the possibility of additional parkland in Windsor Heights, but at the moment there's not any known options. So that's really the extent of it. I welcome any feedback, particularly on the Colby Park piece, if everybody's thinking is to align with the idea of moving forward in 2030 with the tennis, pickleball, parking lot, and stormwater project. And then once we get through that, identify if we want to do additional engineering or design for the other amenities, or if there is a strong desire for any of those other amenities. Staff thought would be to limit the amount of time that Colby Park is under construction So potentially incorporate that into the 2030 project. I think that's less pressing now that we've consolidated these projects into one. Originally, we had them spaced out over 3 years, but one of these other smaller projects could be included in that overall bid package.
Does the area, the water drainage by Mr. Bishop's house, that's part of the parkland as well? Now, do we need to update our master park plan to include that space?
If council's interested in doing an update to the park plan, I think we currently could. We have a very draft concept of how that space could be utilized, but it's contingent on acquisition of additional properties along University Avenue.
Gotcha. Concept of a plan. Got it.
Got it.
I'm fine with this as long as we remember that it's kind of, we might have to move this around depending on what our finances look like as we get closer on, we can have this as our goal, but in 2028, we need to really take a look at our finances and decide if we want that or, what other pressing options are. So as long as we remember that it's kind of flexible or whatever, movable, whatever word that.
And that does remind me, I meant to make the comment kind of in the wake of the planning that we're doing for the future budget that the constraints continue to be primarily in our general fund. The Colby Park improvements have traditionally been funded through other revenue streams. So there is a little bit of a disconnect there, but as long as we maintain those funding sources, they couldn't be applied towards the general fund expenses that we're trying to make up the gap with right now. But point taken, 73rd Street would be a conflicting project potentially with funding Colby Park improvements. So how that project gets priced out and the timing of which is 2030 as well could certainly play into that. That's the extent of the comments I had for Colby Park.
How many years?
5B, discuss draft capital improvement plan and equipment replacement plan. AJ?
Right, so we'll start with the CIP and we'll have Adam pull up kind of our PDF to start with, and then Andy and the Public Works team have been working on a more visual representation of that as well, so we can kind of jump back and forth between those two just so everybody can visualize where these projects are and to the extent of those projects. But there are some more substantial updates to the CIP this year. We've gotten some additional information from Des Moines Waterworks on where their 4-inch water mains are. And so those have been bumped up a bit in a priority and trying to address some of those undersized water mains. We also have updated PCI scores from the Metropolitan Planning Organization. And then we have incorporated kind of our new pricing for recent reconstruction and overlay projects into the engineered cost estimates for these projects as well. So there's some balancing going on there. Again, we've reviewed the projects kind of up through 2030 to ensure that we've got the revenue streams that are in line with these engineered cost estimates to be able to move forward with those. And we remain pretty confident in the ability to move forward with these projects on those schedules unless otherwise noted. The biggest qualifier on that is 73rd Street South reconstruction and whether additional grant funds are received and the final scope of that project. I'll kind of notate then some changes that we have in the CIP here, but feel free to jump in with any questions as I go. Probably the most substantial changes in 2029. We have had 64th Street reconstruction between Forest Court and Sunset. So it's not showing up there right now, but a portion of what's shown on the future overlay for 2029. That is proposed to be removed as a reconstruction. The road itself is in very rough shape. There's a photo in the staff report, and many of you drive that frequently. There was new sidewalk that was added to 64th Street. There are a number of very large ash trees the city's invested in treating along there, and the water main had minimal issues and is appropriately sized. So from a priority standpoint for a reconstruction, I think we would still like to see it reconstruct just like Forest Court, but the cost of doing a full reconstruction relative to the improvements we could make with an overlay with a 10 to 15-year lifespan of a good or fair quality road. Probably don't merit a reconstruction at this time. The one question I think on it is whether we can get storm sewer added to this portion of 64th Street. And we believe we can do that by some adjoining projects that are scheduled in the CIP more efficiently than through a reconstruction of 64th Street. So we see some significant cost savings by moving this to an overlay instead of being able to just impact that Forest Court to Sunset section. We'd instead overlay the entirety of 64th Street up to the school, so College to University. With those dollar savings, we can look at some other CIP projects that we have scheduled in there. It would also have the benefit of not causing multi-year disruption to the school pickup and drop off, as well as we can time this overlay project over the summer when there's going to be less traffic on 64th Street. So that's a pretty substantial change. Welcome any comments you might have on that one, but that change would dictate a few other changes noted in the CIP and the overlay section as well. Otherwise, we're also proposing to advance Elmcrest Drive. So this is one of the streets adjoining 64th Street that we would be adding storm sewer from 65th Street onto, and then connect to 64th Street to go to storm sewer intake on that street, help improve the long-term durability of that road. And then revising Carpenter just south of that from 2034 to 2036. Really, these two projects are fairly interchangeable. The PCI score is just moderately lower on Elmcrest than it is on Carpenter. And so it felt appropriate to shift that one up a little bit and move Carpenter back a little bit. We have the addition of 66th Street reconstruction between University Avenue essentially to the alleyway. This is a section that we've seen a lot of historical water main breaks on. There's kind of a quilt of pavement in that area. If you next time you drive by it, just kind of take a look. You'll see on the roadway into the angled parking and then into the alleyway and the sidewalks. It's just got a lot of issues that have been patched over the year, most likely due to the water main breaks that have happened. And then there is a storm sewer intake that we're seeing some deterioration along that section as well. So we'd like to get this one on the list for reconstruction, in part because it is a fairly heavily trafficked piece of 66th Street. It's serving a number of businesses on both sides of the road there.
So we're talking just not even a block, correct? Just a little.
Just a small section there. We've also noticed since the reconstruction of University Avenue, the curb line was extended out just in front of the northeast corner intersection there, and it's sticking out far enough that large vehicles, snow plows, everybody's sort of hitting it, and that curb is disintegrating pretty quick. So we'd take the opportunity to probably pull that back just a little bit as well before it needs to be fully rebuilt just independently. But yes, a pretty short section, a couple 100 feet.
Will we help the exit or entrance into, lack of a better term, grounds for celebration, where you have to kind of.
Great place to bottom out.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, if I'm in the truck, I don't, but I have to strategically pull out. So is that something that also will be fixed, or is that part of the property owners?
The approach would be part of the city right away responsibility. So I imagine there'll be an elevation adjustment, something to keep an eye on as we get moving forward with the engineering of that project. But I guess
Do so much.
It feels like the Casey's coming off onto 70th.
That's the other thing. Yes.
So this small project, that'd be 2 construction seasons then?
If you're lucky.
Sorry.
On that comedic note, we'll move into mills and overlays. So a number of changes here as well. Advancing Mott Avenue, 64th to 65th from 28 to 27, a fairly small scoped project here, and we would sync it up with 77th Maryland to College Drive. So both of those be taking place in 2027. Try to bid them together, perhaps experience a little bit of cost savings, particularly if the Mott one, it would be a very small project for somebody to bid out independently. Creation of 64th Street. This is the aforementioned project that would shift from smaller portion of it being reconstructed to the full section being overlaid. And then we have here proposed two new projects that are a mill and overlay plus reconstruction of the water main. So this would be the extent of Del Matro in two separate parts. So the entirety of Del Matro is a 4-inch water main. It's a high priority list for Des Moines Waterworks to upsize that to, I believe it was an 8-inch. The road's not in terrible condition in parts, but it's definitely showing its age. And so essentially what the project would be is digging up the curb line to some extent towards the center of the street. Think of it maybe as a third of the street you would dig up, put in the new upsized water main, bore in the new water main services, and then overlay all the road or full depth, reconstruct the portion that was removed for the water main replacement. Try to do this in two parts in a way that still allows some traffic to flow through north and south in those areas. And then I do have noted in here, although a large portion of this project cost would be paid for out of the Des Moines Waterworks Windsor Heights Capital Improvement Fund, which is sitting at a pretty healthy balance as we've utilized tax increment financing for 73rd Street and 68th Street South project the last 2 years here. There's still a significant cost that would be paid through lost or cash. And the scope of that, along with the bond timing for 73rd Street South and Maryland Drive projects, could require shifting of this project or these projects by a year or two. Finally, creation of Lincoln Avenue. So this is a road that's still got a pretty decent subbase from what we're seeing. Be an opportunity to overlay it. Minimal water main issues. I would sync that up in 2032 with Lewin Lane getting overlaid as well. That's already in the CIP. And then advancing 75th Street from 2036 to 2034. And then Andy, you want to talk a little bit about the long-term plan for University Avenue?
Yeah, so this year we had a striping and sealing project that took place from 69th Street to 63rd Street. It's an asphalt roadway that is reconstructed back in 2020, 2021 timeframe. That asphalt is now getting into the state of a maintenance cycle on it. We're 5-6 years outside of that project from when it was first installed. So this year we completed first we went through as Public Works and crack sealed it, and then we went out for bid for the rejuvenation and the updated pavement markings on that. We've incorporated as part of the pavement preservation CIP kind of on this 5-year cycle, and it's really just kind of a placeholder in there. But now that we're kind of in this maintenance period on the asphalt portion of University Avenue, about every 5 to 7 years, there's going to have to be some significant application done to that to preserve that roadway, keep it in the condition that it's in. So that's included in here in the pavement preservation section. One of the things that we did too, and this was really just kind of a placeholder in the overlay section of the CIP, we introduced the potential for a mill and overlay on University Avenue. It's not meant to scare anybody, but at some point there's going to probably have to be something that needs to be done with it. So we're trying to get ahead of it now, put it on there so it's not a shock when something comes up. We've already started to see potholes on University this year. We filled those with cold patch, but we're going to have to start getting out there from a maintenance standpoint and fixing those and keeping that integrity, keeping that pavement sealed. Now that we're kind of in this cycle of the roadways life. So those are our new kind of ongoing projects from a preservation standpoint. You'll continually see those in relation to University Avenue going forward.
Want to share a little bit about the map that you guys have been working on in draft form as well?
Yeah, so this is something I'll share everybody this link, but this is we've gone through as part of our GIS program and created a 5-year capital improvement plan. So basically we took what we have in spreadsheet form, created a visualization of it. So it's easily digestible from a user standpoint, you can kind of see where projects are located at. If Adam, if you just click on maybe a feature, and there'll be a dialog box that pops up that will share. I know it's kind of hard to see from where you're sitting, but it gives the project name, the estimated cost, the funding sources, scheduled year, the description of the project. So that really highlights kind of the scope or the boundaries of the project itself, the reasoning why, whether it's pavement preservation, water, stormwater, kind of some of those driving factors for the CIP or for it being included in the CIP, and then the types of projects that it is. So, and a real quick, little blurb, you could find out what the city has planned from an infrastructure improvement standpoint, that is easily digestible to the general public, to anybody that's out there that is curious and wants to spend time looking at pavement. So, but this is something that we can include in our website. It's another way to communicate this plan to the outside community, to our residents, and to our business owners. And if people have questions, they can easily go here and find out that information. So it's another tool for us to be able to share kind of what it is we're planning on doing over the course of the next 5 to 10 years. The CIP is a revolving document. We go through it every single year. We take some stuff off, we shift things around. There's a lot of factors, a lot of drivers that go into it. And this map will get included as part of that process when we go through this every single year. So we'll keep this up to date as best we can on a mostly an annual basis when we're kind of in the budgeting cycle. But it's a very neat tool. A lot of other communities use it, and a lot of good information in a very compact, digestible method.
So once we're kind of through the CIP process, we'll get this live on Facebook and our website for folks to be able to see going forward.
There now, like, it's just a. Don't think on this, but whatever, yeah.
This is great. I think I told you during our committee meeting that I've only been asking for this for 10 years. So I'm excited and thrilled to finally see this be a live piece. So I think it makes us.
Not to go, when you could filter the layers, you can turn things off. You could see, okay, I'm curious about just reconstruction projects, right? So you could turn everything else off. The other thing that this tool is nice is if there's outside other cities, other organizations, whether it's Waterworks, whether it's the WRA, if they have plan, I mean, case in point, this would be a good example, is the 70th Street feeder main with Waterworks, right? It's not a city-run project. It isn't city-led, but we're going to feel the impact of it. So as residents have those concerns, it shows the boundary. We're going to be impacted by it, even though it's not our project, right? So, but it gives more information, contacting agency if they have questions for further information, you contact them on Waterworks or whoever, right? But any impact that we're going to feel from projects outside of our community, we can also include on this as an external project. So, but
yeah. Next section then is pavement preservation projects. So these are typically streets that are concrete, but they need some portions cut out and replaced. 66th Street, Forest Del Matro, shifting this one back a few years to sync it up with Wilshire Boulevard. Wilshire Boulevard was a PCC project, I want to say maybe 5 or 6 years back. About half the street got completed, I think, until funding sort of ran out for that project. So we still need to get it back in on the south side of Wilshire in particular, and finish up patching on that street as well. Andy, you want to talk about 70th Street? Maybe you can just hit the rest of the section. I think those are ones that you primarily worked on.
Yeah, we're going to continue with our residential crack sealing or joint sealing program with our tar machine. Our biggest goal for that is to get on a 4-year cycle. So we're touching those roads every 4 years, making sure that that pavement's sealed up, water, keeping that water from infiltrating that. 70th Street, these areas, they really kind of target the intersections of 4 different side streets that intersect 70th Street. So Bel Air, Sunrise, Franklin, and El Rancho. The side streets are relatively in good shape. 70th Street is in relatively good shape, but there's just this really targeted area right around the radius at the mouth of those side streets that has some severe deterioration. We went through and masticed and filled up those holes in there, but it's really kind of it's too big to do a reconstruction or too small to do a reconstruction project. So we're kind of grouping, or I guess the thought behind it is we group some of these smaller projects into a larger project, make it more appetizing for a contractor to bid on. And we see those improvements. We're going to constantly be in there from a maintenance standpoint. So this kind of alleviates that. I wish I had a visual to kind of show you, but it would kind of be self-describing on where it's at. But I guess the general point is combining some of these smaller projects into a bigger project to make it more appetizing for somebody to want to do that. Similar to 70th Street, we also have School Street intersection improvements, and that's between the blocks of 65th Street and 64th Street. It's not highlighted on the map here, but basically just redoing those radii, similar to what Adam talked about. Those radii are too tight and people get up and over the curb, the deterioration, they drive over the sidewalk ramp. So really just kind of focusing on redoing those radiuses in there, the sidewalk ramps, making sure that they're in compliance with ADA requirements. That'd be another project we could look at, potentially grouping some smaller things and make it worthwhile for somebody to do that. So.
Talk a little bit, I guess, about 73rd Street. Of course, have reconstruction scheduled, but we also have tentatively received a state DOT grant to help fix the rail crossing. This requires cooperation with 3 different railroad entities right now. And we also want to time it in a way that these improvements are made in a way that they're not thrown away for the future reconstruction. So if you've been down 73rd Street South recently, you've noticed that crossing is in really rough shape, and there has been some limited emergency work done on it by the railroad. I don't know if you have comments on the extent of that, but
yeah, there's some, we've been in contact with them, or at least making or requesting that service or attention be made to that crossing. I wish we could go out there and put something in those holes, but I don't want to put the city on a liability. It's not our crossing to maintain. We field phone calls on it all the time. I'm not joking yet. We field phone calls on it all the time. It is very rough. From a staff level, we've done, I think what we can, and we continue to reach out to the railroad. That spur is in kind of this weird limbo state. But we do have made some progress on there. They are attentive to some emergency situations, but a long-term fix, we're still trying to work through with the DOT and with Interstate Railroad. So
we do have a call scheduled with them, I think, next week, perhaps it is. So hopefully we can make some progress there and figure out a scope of what could be done and how to do that prior, but in conjunction with our reconstruction effort. Any questions on the pavement preservation projects? The stormwater project is really the only change is the one noted in Colby Park, timing that up with the other projects down there. Parks and Trails, we have received the grant from Bravo. That's on the agenda to accept tonight. We'll talk a little bit more about the city's potential financial contribution towards that and next steps during that item. And then that really takes us to facilities, which was added to the CIP, I think a year or so ago, noting the potential for some more wide scale improvements to the facility, but in particular, the roof is at, I think, 27 years of a 20 to 30 year life frame on it. And that probably drive a few other improvements on the facility as well. Some spaces within this building are in pretty good shape. There's other areas a little more tucked away that are either not very functional for staff based off of the current staffing model, or are just very dated and haven't been touched in a couple of decades. So the scope on this one is to be determined, but the goal is to sync it up with the completion of our FD services study which really help guide kind of that long-term staffing and use model of this building, and then come back in and do, at least to some scale, some improvements to this building to make it a little bit more functional and add that life by some of the roof and potential HVAC changes.
Can you remind us when that public safety remodel or the public safety services study or FD services study is to be completed? Is that 2027 or?
It is kicked off. They just sent a pretty lengthy list of items to respond to Chief Mees, so he'll have fun with that the next week or two here. But we've had our initial kickoff meeting. I probably see a Register article sometime soon, I would imagine, based off the interview we had last week, and is expected to probably take most of this year, depending on how the scope all plays out. But expect probably get a report back to you towards the end of calendar year 2026 to consider what, if any, action steps that council would like to take off of that.
Thank you.
So really only touched on the projects that changed. We can pull back up the full CIP if anybody has any questions or you want to talk through any of them in more detail. Otherwise, there's the kind of the 5-year list and then the map to refer to. But we'll be back on this, but certainly welcome any feedback in the next week or two as we make those adjustments. No questions there, then we can jump to the ERP.
Thanks, Andy.
Andy, while you're up there, you want to hit the Public Works one? A little out of order here.
This year, we still have, let me first just give you an update too. We did get our new snowplow. We have put it in service and the guys love it. We've done training with the vendors on controls, the operations inside the cab. We've calibrated that truck as well as our other truck. The nice thing with this truck is we opted to put a road temperature sensor on there, which is how we're determining what our application rate is from a salt and calcium standpoint. So very useful tool for us now that we have trucks properly calibrated. We're still getting the same results with our snowplow operation or snow clearing operation, but we're minimizing actually how much salt we're actually putting down on the ground, which is really awesome to see. The guys have really bought into that. We also have completed our shop floor repair this year, and we still have scheduled the replacement of truck number 1, as well as the Chief. That truck, both of those trucks have seen some better days. They're starting to get phased out. They're becoming having a lot of maintenance that's required of them. So those will get phased out yet this year, but looking forward to next year. I proposed the purchase of a mini excavator. We use this piece of equipment when we have it. Right now, we rent that piece of equipment. This year alone, we spent close to, I would say, $11,000 or $12,000 just in renting that piece of machinery. But it's a very versatile piece of machinery that we can use on a lot of different projects. When we do use it for stormwater, we use it for trail work, we use it for street work. It's a very versatile tool that we can use all across different departments and segments within our operations. The amount of money we spent on the expense side of it and renting machinery, renting that piece of equipment could easily pay for the expense to outright purchase it. We will have ongoing maintenance costs to it, about $1,000 to $2,000 a year. Initially, that'll be a lot lower, but just like any other piece of equipment, it does have a lifespan that won't be on a life cycle. But that would be a very useful piece of equipment for us to be able to step up our operations and actually increase our efficiency and productivity when we're out there in the roadway. kind of combining this year and next year, and we'll talk about this at our next Public Works Committee meeting too. But I did have a kind of a placeholder here for the deposit on another dump truck. So talking with the sales rep, who just delivered our new dump truck, we're still looking at a 2-year window of time we ordered, time it's delivered. It hasn't gotten better. Things have just kind of shifted. At first it was the truck manufacturer. Now it's the outfitters having issues with supplies and everything else. So we're still looking at a 2-year window for delivery on that. We won't be required to put down a deposit, but we'll consult with the Public Works Committee about going ahead and seeking full approval to place the order for it, or anticipating waiting 2 years for the purchase of it to replace truck number 6, which is our dump truck / plow truck. That's kind of the biggest things that we have on here. Everything else is kind of either shifted down a year or kind of moved around just based off of the addition of some other things right now. Going over to the community center, this year we did replace the water heater, which was under appliance and equipment. And we had the CEC tables scheduled to be replaced in phases. We replaced half of the tables last year, and with the intention of replacing half this year and the remaining half next year. At Personnel and Finance Committee, I do have an update on the table locks. So I did order some. One of the issues that we had when we ordered the tables, the replacement tables, is the vendor couldn't provide a locking mechanism to the tables themselves. So
That would connect them together.
that would connect and hold them together. They do have locking casters on there, but the tables do shift if they're not properly secured together. Locking mechanisms are apparently very hard to come by, or I didn't get anywhere with the vendor on them. There are some aftermarket ones that we've used in the past. We've tried multiple different styles, different iterations of those locks. But what we found seemed to work, and we have a prototype that we're kind of working through an old table segment right now to see how well it actually functions. But it's a kind of a magnetic style, so there's no clasping, there's no latching, there's nothing. Basically just put them together. The magnets are strong enough to hold them, but you're still able to pull them apart. So you can literally put those together, move the table around, and then if you wanted to disassemble them, it's just a matter of just sliding them apart and they're separated. So easy to put together, easy to tear down, but we'll see how we feel about that after we do some more testing with that. But given kind of that issue that we're working through, we're going to temporarily pause, and we actually took off the replacement of the tables. I did assess the remaining inventory. We're sitting relatively good with the condition of the tables, both from a lamination standpoint and the edge banding. So what was worse out of that inventory was replaced last year. What's remaining is still in relatively good condition. So while we work through the locking mechanisms, I feel confident or comfortable, I guess, with just kind of temporarily putting the replacement for the remaining just on the back burner until we get some more that have some more severe, or I guess some more tables that have more severe issues and defects. So that's really the only changes in the community center there.
Questions for Andy?
Or comments? The mayor, council.
All right, well, Chief Ross coming up, I'll hit the systems and technology one here briefly. Primarily just want to call out, we continue to have $10,000 budgeted for workstation replacement each year. We don't always use all that, but that's just typically cycling through the approximately 40 computers we have on a rotating basis to keep them operating smoothly. And then we do have added in here in 27-28 and 28-29, timing a little bit to be determined, replacement of the council AV system. This would be synced up with the potential remodel of this building or some work in this building. There's also need to replace some cameras here, some more immediately than others. And then that is notated in the 28-29. So we replaced a few of the key cameras last year that were still old analog ones that were completely unfunctional. We'll probably have to replace a couple more this year. But there's a lot of cameras in this building because of the technology and the work done in here. And a good portion of them are still analog ones that have seen better days, and it's very hard to make anything out of it. So the idea is try to get everything kind of synced up to modern era as part of the building renovation through the ERP. Questions on that? Otherwise, Chief.
Good evening, Pete Roth, Windsor City, Windsor Heights, Mayor Council. Our ERP is pretty basic as usual. We have a patrol vehicle listed for replacement. It's a hybrid to a hybrid, so we're going to have a net gain of 0 for that. But it's kind of also hard to budget for those because the prices kind of fluctuate with the vehicle and also with the equipment. As the Ford has changed some cosmetic stuff inside the vehicle, so we may have to replace some of the equipment that is already in the existing vehicle. So kind of gave myself a little bit of leeway there for the upfitting and the equipment purchase there. We also have 2 tasers that need to be replaced that I've listed there. They're kind of getting outdated anyway, but we're able to use these existing ones for the time being. And finally, we have a $10,000 purchase in there for an upgrade to our body and in-car camera system. Right now, we have a client-based or a computer-based system that we use to log into the cameras to view them and get them prepared for court or for the attorneys. And we have to move to a web-based version of that. So that's a one-time cost that will allow us to be able to have better access to the system. They're not also supporting the client-based system, but we're also able to still use our existing servers that we placed, we upgraded several years ago so that our videos will still be housed here on our server, but the web-based client will be a lot better for us to be able to access our videos, and it'll be supported. This ERP went through the Public Safety Committee back in December and also Personnel and Finance, and there were no issues on either of those committees. So take any questions if you have any. Sorry, I had no PowerPoint, but police cars are outside if you want to take a look. A mattress came in, so I know it's sitting in it. No intel.
Different rides.
Yeah. Thank you.
James Meese, Fire Chief, Mayor Council, thank you for the time. I'm gonna be pretty quick, really. The only change that I adjusted in our ERP was my command vehicle was due for replacement this budget year. I pushed that back another year. I feel very confident in the vehicle. It's still in great shape, mechanically sound, and we may look at pushing that another year next budget cycle. Any questions?
What's concise and to the point?
What's the 2012 Ford wheeled coach ambulance 400,000? Please tell me we're not spending $400,000 on a 2012.
No, that's the one we're replacing.
Gotcha.
We've
Okay.
already got it ordered, so
Okay.
that's the one that we've already planned on replacing. It will be our reserve once we get the new one, and then when we get the second new one, that will go bye-bye.
Gotcha.
Oh.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Any additional questions on the CIP or ERP?
All right. 5C, discuss comprehensive plan review.
This is a topic that's been brought up internally as well as by several outside folks as well in the last year or two. The last the last comprehensive plan that the city did was in 2017. It was done by RDG. It cost approximately $67,000. You can see, if you can read it, it's kind of poor font, but kind of lists off there in that graphic all the tasks that were done as part of that. These comprehensive plans are pretty in-depth documents. Typically, a city would be looking at doing those every 5 to 10 years, depending on how much growth the community's been experienced. So we are coming up against kind of that general time frame. We talked at the finance committee meeting about a scale of updating a comprehensive plan and whether to look at a more of a minor update or to do something larger like was done about 9 years ago now. I think the general consensus was that there was a lot of good feedback and a lot of policies that came out of that comprehensive plan. I guess one example would be from today. We were down at the state capitol. The city of Windsor Heights and Des Moines received award from 1,000 Friends of Iowa for the streetscaping work and the revamp of University Avenue. That was a project that I think was listed as part of the comprehensive plan back in 2017. But that a more whole scale comprehensive plan refresh would be the appropriate route to look at. So that's what we're currently looking at as part of next year's budget. It, of course, is complicated by my prior statements that we are looking at a skinnier budget for next year than we were originally hoping. So you'll have a decision point on how you want to look at this, but it would be potentially a lost funded project or a project could be funded out of council reserve or out of general fund reserves, which are continuing to be very healthy and above the 25% policy for annual expenses the city's looked at. But we're looking at an 8 to 12 month time frame potentially to do a new comprehensive plan, sync that up in next fiscal year as we wrap up our city code update here in the next couple of months. And then, of course, in the wake of the zoning code update, which are both pieces of city policy that kind of fall in to a degree with the comprehensive plan as well. So right now, the recommendation, I think, is to move forward with the full comprehensive plan, look at a $75,000 to $100,000 budget for that, led through an RFP process with a private consultant. But I think this will probably be something to continue to talk about as we work through the budget year. And where you want to allocate those funds from, presuming that that moves forward. But again, I think the options would be potentially through lost, and we do have some unallocated lost dollars, or you could look at general fund reserve, which again has a healthy budget, but want to think about that in context of the longer term budget plans that we'll be looking forward as well. So that's a very brief summary. I do have notated, having read through the 2017 plan, just sort of where some of those goals and action strategies were, actions that have been taken on those. Certainly didn't hit everything on there. I think there's still items that will probably be back on a future comprehensive plan as well. But as you kind of look through that list, you can see that there has been quite a few of those checked off by the city in the last decade. So it does feel about time to look at a refresh for this in some fashion. Happy to answer any questions or take any additional feedback, but that is our plan right now to incorporate that into the budget, barring other thoughts here this evening.
Silence is.
That is proceed.
5D, consideration of resolution number 2026-05, a resolution accepting a public art grant agreement with Bravo for the Dinner Dispatch mural project.
Move to approve. Second.
AJ?
Yes, so we previously applied back in September 15th for the Bravo mural grant. We were awarded $40,000 by Bravo for that, specifically for design and completion of the west wall portion of that mural. We've also discussed if we received some sort of a grant extending that to the awning over the adjoining buildings to the east as well. And the city had allocated up to, I believe it was $50,000 previously to try and complete this project under the scope of the urban renewal plan, parking lot, patio, and mural project that had previously been listed there. So we continue to work with Colby Interests on a maintenance agreement for that mural. We've been sharing some drafts back and forth and met with the Public Communications and Public Art Committee meeting last week to talk about whether to utilize consultants to lead that RFQ process. Liz Lidgett, who worked with us on the public art plan, had given us two kind of pricing scopes on how she could assist us, kind of more whole scale or sort of just RFQ portion of the process. So I'm still chatting with her about that. But the general direction was to look towards her to help us kind of guide the whole visioning process for that release of the RFQ and ensure that it gets completed in a way that's going to satisfy the building owners as well as the city and engage the public on that design. So that is currently listed in the CIP and is the intent to move forward with that mural project. My best guess at this point, not knowing the full scope or the design of that mural, is the city cost could be somewhere around that $40,000 range, $30,000 range, depending on that final design and feedback from the selected artist. And then we do also have another grant application out there as well, which could supplement the city's funding for this project further. But we won't know on that for, I think, another month or two. So tonight, we're just looking for confirmation to accept that Bravo grant and then understand kind of the intentions to engage Liz Lidgett for what will probably be a couple of $1,000s to help her guide us through that RFQ process for installation of this mural in 2026. Happy to answer any questions council might have on that.
Remind me where the money is coming from. Where were we taking that 40,000 up to or whatever?
Yeah, the city's last urban renewal plan update, TIF, intended for a mural, patio, and a parking lot project to be incorporated on this building. The scope of that's been reduced because of the new use of that building, but it still falls within the purview of that. So it would be a TIF reimbursed project from the city's expense part.
In our committee discussion, we talked about the benefit of having Liz help guide us and get us in front of the right mural artist that can complete the job. That's not going to create a headache for city staff to have to micromanage the project. And, Liz's work in our art plan, I think she can accurately represent our city and what our vision is for it with the artist so that we get the right fit. And we're not trying to qualify an artist or manage project.
Would her services come out of that 40,000 or would that be an additional cost?
My understanding is that her services could be paid for out of the Bravo grant. It would be within the scope of that grant award.
You have a motion second?
I know that. Is there other discussion or questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Susan Skiris.
Yes.
Joseph Jones.
Yes.
Fletcher Berry. Yes. Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Teresa Harms.
Yes.
5E, consideration of resolution number 2026-06, a resolution approving a use agreement between the city and the YMCA for use of Colby Park.
Move to approve.
Second.
AJ.
Yeah, we discussed a draft of this 2026 agreement December 15th. Primary update would be updating the fee from the 1,000 to the 2,500 to better reflect kind of the city expenses that we think we incur as part of just general maintenance and supplies for hosting. Generally, things went well last year. There was a couple of council comments just noting whether there was field trips planned. They did confirm their intent is to do 2 field trips a week unless the weather prohibits that. They did note that that did happen on occasion last year. Also confirmed they understand and continue to support that that is a public park and that they need to be very cognizant of being able to share that with the residents that are out there and enjoying Colby Park as well. So we anticipate they currently have the camp open and listed online at a maximum of 40 kids, which is less than the 60 maximum specified in the agreement. They did state that sometimes that will flex a little bit depending on their staffing. I think, getting summer staff to host these camps is always a challenge. They'll probably come in conservative to that, but They indicated it'd probably be around 40 to 50. And beyond that, I think we've got what we need from them for liability purposes. That does not currently list the resident $10 reduction on their website, but I did confirm with them they changed the software they use to register that. They will apply that retroactively that anybody that has registered, of which it's pretty fresh. So there's only a few people registered for each week, and that they will get that listed on their website. So I think they've answered all the questions that were presented last time, and they're supportive of the agreement as drafted if council would like to move forward with it.
Questions? Discussion?
Just thanks for your work on that and continuing to build that relationship and look for these opportunities. I think they're meaningful, so thanks for your work on it.
Roll call.
Susan Skiris.
Yes.
Joseph Jones.
Yes.
Fletcher Berry.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Teresa Harms.
Yes.
Reports, mine is in the packet, Ms. Harms.
Yeah, so just a couple of things. So, it's been, obviously you've heard, we've had a finance committee, we had communications arts. So a lot of the work we did today, there was a MAC meeting, elected Courtney Clark as the new chair last week on the second day of legislative session. I was not there, but, I was at the Capitol. But yeah, otherwise the legislative session is in full swing and there are lots of pieces of legislation that potentially impact us as a city and more to come on that front. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, I try to send things Adam's way for a heads up. So I think that's all I got.
Kim?
I attended the United Way Advocacy Breakfast on December 18th with Susan. Of course, Joseph was there, and he made all the elected officials stand up. Communication special events meetings, both committees met last week. The 2026 special events brochure is ready just in time for Susan to find sponsors for all of our special events. I think there's minimal typos this year. I volunteered with Susan and Mayor Jones at the Fueling Hope gas giveaway on Sunday. It was very cold, but we helped give away over 11,000 gallons and it emptied out Quick Star's reserve tank. And then I will be joining Bolton and Mink at the Iowa Parks and Recreation Association in March to talk about our Colby Park project. So thank you, Justin, for helping me live my Leslie Knope dreams. That's all I got.
Barry? Will this be in my first meeting? I don't have much of an update, but just want to again, thanks to the city staff, the Windsor Heights residents, all the council members for helping me through this process, supporting me through the process, and I'm looking for the next 4 years. So thank you.
Great.
Jones, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I was afraid when I showed up today that the mayor would have moved our seats. I'm like, man, I hope he doesnuld move my cheese. So like, I like my angle. Hopefully Fletcher likes being there.
We didn't even think about looking at our
The same.
names.
Yeah.
We should change.
I don't think I had a choice.
But I'll just sat down.
When the mayor and I met, he's like, you know where you're sitting, right?
We had DART today. We talked about a few different things. We did election of officers again, so we kept the same slate. So I will continue on as Secretary Treasurer for the Executive Committee. We talked at great length about paratransit and what that might look like in the future, along with talking about the budget and levy rates. So some other future conversations to come. Budget workshop is in February on the 18th at 3:30 in the afternoon. And then we also talked a little bit about workforce transportation and a possible project there to kind of fill the gaps in some places where the new network won't necessarily go, but we know that there's a demand and there's access down those corridors to be able to get people to jobs. So more to come on that. Did I miss anything here? Oh, and Bondurant is officially leaving. Sorry. That's it.
Back in December, I also joined the United Way Advocacy Breakfast with the two fine people. Great opportunity to hear about their adversary priorities impacting our community. We've held two special events committee meetings since our last council meeting. We'll be taking February off, and any updates from the committee will be shared with the Special Events Committee via email, just to keep everybody in line. Or there's really nothing to do in February, so it's a nice little break from a meeting. There is a ribbon cutting on January 30th at 4 p.m. at SP Salon on 73rd Street, the strip mall thing right next to Classic Kids. So it's in there between the roofing and the lashes and that fun area there. Attended Wake Up Windsor Heights with Fletcher and Adam at Dinner Dispatch. It was well attended. We also had people from the West Side Chamber come. So a great opportunity to connect with the local businesses. I attended the West Side Legislative Breakfast in Clive. We had a very strong Windsor Heights presence because we had Fletcher, Mike, Adam, and myself there. I think we had the most. Oh, you were there? I didn't see you
That's
there.
behind you guys.
I didn't turn around. I was a good child and just looked forward and listened. Sorry. So we really did.
Right
clear-
behind you.
Yeah, it was early. That's all I can say.
It was.
Then I met with Sean, who oversees the 4th of July parade for Urbandale. We're discussing ways that we can increase participation in both of our parades. As part of the effort, we're exploring the possibility of participating in the Urbandale parade on July 4th. So everyone may need to dust off their waving hands and warm up their candy throwing arms or tossing or whatever you do there. Just another way that as we look at regionalization, we can kind of explore ways to collaborate even on special events where it makes sense to work smarter, not harder. Attended BASH as well as the Polk County Emergency Management session on the avian flu with Chief Roth. Metro Waste was inadvertently left off the invite list, and we're part of the group that was supposed to talk. So that was kind of interesting. I shared the key takeaways later that day at the Metro Waste Executive Board meeting. For those with backyard chickens, you might just want to look at a little bit more information about that and how you can protect your flock in your backyard. So volunteered at the gas giveaway, as Lauren said, with Lauren and Mike. Looking ahead, I'll be attending the AM Exchange next Tuesday morning, followed by the legislative event at Metro Waste Authority, which Teresa helps put on. Then the next day is the Partnerships Legislative event. And that morning, I'll be attending the quarterly Catch Des Moines meeting. So that's it.
Yes, come on down next Tuesday, right?
I sent out the invites, so everybody
Yes.
should have gotten them.
Be
And
there, be square.
the food is good and there's drinks. So, I mean, that should bring everybody. Yeah.
I'll be there.
And they get to see our shiny, happy faces. What could be better?
A good opportunity to connect with policymakers.
Yes.
Nothing from you? Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Second.
roll call.
Susan Skiris.
Yes.
Joseph Jones.
Yes.
Fletcher Berry.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Teresa Harms.
Yes.